So we gave away a Yashica FX3. We talked about the Yashica 12 TLR. And now I figure we might as well stick with the theme and talk about the fake Yashica 35mm point and shoot camera. Welcome back. So hey guys, and welcome back. Thanks again for checking in and watching another video. Be sure you subscribe, like this video if you find it useful, and comment down below. Say hi. I want to thank you guys for that previous camera giveaway we did before of the Yashica FX3. It went really well. I appreciate all the feedback and all the contribution. That is over, however. So for those of you who are just now commenting on that with the tagline, that was quite a few weeks ago. I guess I should have been more specific with a specific date, although I figured since the video is dated, that would have kind of given it away, but note for next time. But as I said, there will be more giveaways in the future, so make sure you stay tuned. There are some more coming up soon, so be sure to keep watching these videos and check in frequently. I'm not sure how many of you saw the picture that I posted a few days ago on YouTube, but that kind of hinted at something that's coming up soon. So a few of you saw it. I don't think anybody kind of caught on to it, but if you take a closer look, you might get an idea of what I have in the works. One of the many things that I have in the works. And I still have a lot of cameras to update to the website and the store page. A lot of you guys have got on there and got some good deals, and there will be plenty more coming up. But without further ado, let's get into the Yashica L AF 35. So this is a point and shoot camera. Now, despite the name Yashica L AF 35mm point and shoot camera, this is actually made by a company called Kyocera, which is branded here, right here in the lower corner. It's a Yashica branded lens, but the company that manufactured it is Kyocera under the Yashica name. Now, I'm not completely sure of all the history behind that, but it's very interesting that they branded it under the Yashica name and that Yashica let them. Pretty sure Yashica was still around then. I know now it's been bought and sold, and there's all kinds of other Yashica branded products, but this was built in 1988-ish, give or take a few years. So I'm pretty sure that was when Yashica was still a name and still a brand. So I find it very interesting they let somebody else kind of brand something under their name. Quick tidbit about this. This is a Yashica lens. It's a 32mm 3.5. I did, however, find on eBay that there's another model which looks almost identical to this. That, however, is a Carl Zeiss 35mm lens with a 2.8 f-stop, if I'm not mistaken. Could be 3.5, but I'm pretty sure it's 2.8. So if you're looking this up, make sure you notice those differences, because obviously the Carl Zeiss lens is going to be better. And I would be very curious to try that after the great results that I got with this one. So without further ado, let's get into this camera. I took it with me on a trip to see my parents about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I really had very low expectations. It is completely autofocus and completely automatic. You do have the option to turn on or off the flash. No, you don't. So unlike some other point and shoots we've talked about, like the Pentax Mini Sport, where you had the option to lift the flash in order to turn it on or off, or the Olympus point and shoots, where you kind of have the option to turn off the flash once you've turned the camera on, but it automatically kind of starts with it on. This, from what I can tell, and I'm pretty sure from when I shot it, the flash is always on. So if it decides that it needs a flash, it's gonna use it. I actually had Jack take 2 photos of me in the living room downstairs, one in completely pitch black with me, of course, center focused, and then another one I turned the kitchen light on, which was way back at 30, 40 feet, so I guess about, what, 15 meters or something like that, just to have a little bit of light for it to kind of pick up what was going on. It did miss the one in pitch black focus-wise, but we took the same exact shot with that kitchen light on, and it picked me up perfectly. I was center framed for both images just to kind of see what it did as far as reading what needs to be in focus. Now that kitchen light was very low and it's very far back, so it did still do a pretty good job of picking me up. I didn't, however, test the backlight of this camera, although overall I think it did a really great job of exposure based on the images that you're gonna see. It has your typical door that opens and closes the lens. So nice, super convenient. And I still have a battery in there, interesting. Other than that, the only buttons are, of course, opening the film door. There's the film rewind on the bottom, which, since this is a later point and shoot camera, it's gonna leave the tab out for you, which is convenient if you're like me and you develop your film, and taking out that tab is kind of annoying. But if you send your film off to get developed, doesn't really matter. You have the frame number up top as well as the battery button to let you know that you have power with your battery. Of course, then is your shutter button, and then lastly is a small little notch right there, which is a self timer for the camera. Kind of tucked away neatly. I like that it's kind of streamlined. It doesn't stick out anywhere else. So spec wise, like I said, this is a 32mm 3.5 lens. Focus wise, it can go from 0.8 meters to infinity. It is DX coded, so you're gonna have to use film speeds between 100 and 1000 for your ISO. And then lastly, for your shutter speed, you have 1/30 all the way to 1/450. It does take a bit of an odd battery, so you're going to need a 2CR5 battery to use this camera. When I bought this, there was one in it and it actually still works great. So I'm assuming the lifetime on this battery is pretty good. Now overall from these images, you're gonna be able to see that pretty much everything is well in focus, as well as the lighting conditions and just the exposure is actually picked out pretty well. So I was rather impressed with this camera. It's got that, typical 80s look where it's just kind of odd and cheap plasticky and that type of thing. But image-wise, it did very well and it performed much better than I expected given the year of this camera as well as the off-branded Kyocera and just what I expect from a point and shoot of this time frame and the autofocus and things like that. I try to kind of mix it up between really close things and then further back things and things in the middle just to kind of see how it would pick up focus because I know personally with the Olympus stylus, I've had issues with that picking up focus and missing focus. So I wanted to kind of test out this compared to something like that. Now, as far as rating this camera goes, it is a point and shoot with limited settings and limited capabilities. You can't pick any of your own settings. You're stuck between ISOs 1 and 1000, which usually isn't a big deal, but if you're wanting to do something special, that will of course limit you. You don't have control over the flash. And of course, size-wise, you're gonna notice it is bigger than your typical Olympus stylus, which is known for being a very compact, very capable camera. But it did perform rather well in settings, so I'm gonna go with a 3 for usability. Now, as far as build quality goes, this is produced in the 80s, which is when they started making everything, well, before that even, everything out of plastic, cheap parts, trying to cut costs as much as they can. So you lose a lot of that build quality. And honestly, this was not meant to last this long, I don't think. But it is a little bit sturdier and a little bit more bulky than a Olympus stylus. It doesn't have that shell door, which although is very popular, makes it more susceptible to break. It doesn't have the little flash that pops out on the side, which also is more susceptible to break than having it built into the body like this. So for something like a stylus, I would give build quality like a 2. Even though it is a popular camera, they're known for breaking over time. It's just a matter of when and where. For this, I would give a 3 just because it does have a little more heft to it and is a little bit sturdier than something like a stylus. Now, image quality. Like I said, it performed rather well with autofocus and just picking the exposure. I would compare it similarly to something like a stylus. Now, the Olympic stylus wasn't introduced till the late 90s. So although this was produced sooner, I did find this to be a little bit more accurate. Of course, keep in mind that I've only put a few rolls through the stylus and I've put 1 roll through this Yashica L AF. But because this is a little bit bigger in size, although it is earlier, you can kind of put more into it and have more control over what the camera is capable of when you add some size to it as compared to the Olympus stylus, which is significantly smaller than this. For a point and shoot, it's great, no complaints about that. Obviously, I think there are better ones for sure, but with a point and shoot, you limit yourself. So I'm gonna have to go with a 3 on image quality. Now, lastly is features. Again, with point and shoots, you don't get features. You don't have control over your flash. You do have a timer. Other than that, there pretty much is no settings. They do make a different version of this with the backing that kind of imprints the time and date on it, which is really cool back then. I think with that one, you can also print the minutes and seconds if you wanted to, or you can select the year and day or year and month, one of the two. Not a super great feature in today's day and age. Nonetheless, it is a feature. Features wise, I'm gonna have to go with a 2 because you don't have control of your flash like you would with a stylus Epic or things like that. And pretty much you have no control over any of the features at all. That's not to say it's a poor camera, that's just to say that's what it's built for. It's built to be a run-and-gun point and shoot camera, and for that it does great, but that does limit your features substantially. I'm really wondering how bad something's gonna have to be for me to give it a 1 on the rating. Somebody give me a camera that deserves a 1 rating on something. I really wanna know. Do some research, get back to me. Comment down below. So although I was very impressed with the Yashica L AF, I currently do not have a need for it. I still have a stylus Epic that I am keeping, which I really don't use that much, and I still have the Nikon One Touch, which I've kind of grown fond of lately. And even then, I don't use that as often as I would like to. So even though this camera performed rather well, it will be going on the website for sale. So be sure you check that if that's something you're interested in, and has, of course, been film tested and works. And it comes with a battery too, since I have no need for it. So if you're looking for a budget 35mm camera that does get you some great results, check out the Kyocera branded Yashica L AF with the 35mm 3.5 lens. But that is gonna wrap up this video, and I'll see you in the next one.